So, hi everybody. Thank you all for being here in this beautiful summery afternoon of Nicosia in this amazing building. It's the first time I enter this building, and a historical building of Nicosia, and thank you, Mayor, for offering it. Our panel today will be exactly about this, about the local authorities, the local communities, and how they can foster social innovation to take it from the local level to the global level, promoting coexistence, development, and progress. We are very happy to have a great roster of panelists with us today. Mayor of Nicosia, Charalambos Prountzos, thank you. Dr. Daina Nicolaou from the University of Cyprus, the Department of Business and Public Administration. Professor Andreas Efstathiou, Rector of the European University of Cyprus. Professor Elena Antonacopoulou, full professor at the Faculty of Business, American University of Beirut, Paphos, welcome. Panels that we will be discussing about communal social innovation. I mean, in a world of challenges, inequalities. Demetris, of course, but with Demetris we have been talking a long time before, so of course, Demetris Hadjisofocli, so his presence was so natural because I see him all day. So, and of course, Demetris Hadjisofocli, CSI, Center for Social Innovation, our CEO. I hope I will not have consequences after this. So, I mean, in a time that we all face serious social challenges, social inequalities in different levels, we see a lot of conflicts around us, environmental challenges, financial challenges. We go back to the local community, to our community, to see how our actions there can reverse a not positive course that our neighborhood is taking. And it's in this context that we would like to discuss today exactly the role of social innovation and how local initiatives, local work, local synergies can support our global village to prosper and to find its way to coexistence and peace. And it's in this context that I would like to address the first question to the Mayor of Nicosia, Charalambos Prountzos. Nicosia, a city of rich history and culture, a history of coexistence, a history of peace sometimes, but a city that fights for peace and strives to find a peaceful way towards development. So how does the city leverage this heritage in fostering social innovation that promotes sustainability, peace and coexistence to all its communities in the city? Charalambos?
On? Yeah, now it is. Okay, thank you very much for inviting me on this panel with esteemed co-panelists. Nicosia is a city is a multicultural city. It has traditionally been one, and historically. It's actually one of the very few cities around the globe that have distinct historic periods that have left their mark on the DNA of the city in terms of architecture, in terms of traditions, and in terms of the vibe of the city and its residents. First of all, allow me to say that I just came back 3 days ago from the Forum of Mayors, and it's truly impressive how the Forum of Mayors is the top sort of event on local governments and local authorities. And it's under the auspices of the UN. It was held in Geneva. And the interesting thing about it is that you've got big cities and small cities participating in it. So you get to see the perspectives from all over the world. And I have to say that the challenges are surprisingly similar nowadays for both larger and smaller cities. And I have to say that in some things, Nicosia is quite pioneer, despite its small size. One of the major issues that we are facing is obviously the distinct character of Nicosia as a divided city. So one of the elements that we need to consider is how we manage to accommodate the bicommunal or multi-communal character of the city, and whether we are successful in achieving that, bearing into consideration the division. I think that in some aspects Nicosia is successful in that, especially with the smaller communities, the Maronites and the Armenians we have, and the Latinos, we have integrated them into the fabric of the city, allowing each community to have its own traditions and identities, whilst at the same time essentially forming an integral part of the civic fabric of the city. In terms of the Turkish Cypriots, I would say that following the opening of the crossing, both on Lydra Palace, Agios Zomedios, and also obviously the Lydra Street crossing, I think it was instrumental in terms of increasing the exchanges between people, and the municipality of Nicosia has been instrumental in the sense of having achieved small wins that have resulted in an element of social engineering. The sewage treatment plant, which was a fundamental environmental intervention for the city, was critical in terms of building a different approach towards the Turkish Cypriot community than the understanding we have in the rest of Cyprus. Apart from that, another element that we are facing now is obviously migration. Migration is the element, and it has formed a significant part in the discussions. I think that we should have a realistic view on the issue. There's a lot of screaming from two sort of opposite sides. One is obviously the side of NGOs that care for the rights of migrants and human rights in general, and we are all in favor, and we are all caretakers of these fundamental rights. On the other side, we've got extremist views, views that are xenophobic, but we also have realities on the ground. And the reality on the ground is that Nicosia is overwhelmed by the inflow of migrants, and this inability of the central government to manage the flows, the population, the integration in various age groups has exacerbated the issue and is giving fertile ground for views that are not acceptable in a modern society. Nicosia is doing a lot to alleviate these issues and to change the perspective. We have the Multifunction Center, which I consider to be an example of modern and contemporary social cohesion policy. In that program, in that foundation, we cover all ages, starting from juveniles, minors, even newly born children, whereby we undertake their care until 8 o'clock in the evening, so that we give migrants, not only migrants, but predominantly migrants, the right to participate in the financial life, which is critical in order to truly integrate people and to allow for a successful social cohesion. We have our own Center for Professional Development, GIAED, which has gone as far as having a full set of specialists, mentors, to the extent of preparing feasibility studies for businesses, and we have one success story already, which is a new business that was formed by a migrant and is now successfully operating in the economy of the city. We are also taking care of issues like language, which is critical for modern communication. Through the Matif Action Center, we offer lessons in Greek. We try also to utilize the traditions and the multicultural character of migrants in many activities of the city, including the Cultural Capital candidacy for 2030, where we have invited artists through an open call and through private meetings to participate in our candidacy and utilize their traditions and their art perspectives in the candidacy, which we consider a wealth for the city. I think that more practical steps like gastronomy, for instance, could be instrumental in achieving that. And finally, we have our own research and innovation center, Science, which is led by the municipality of Nicosia, which is essentially redeveloping parts of the city that had been dilapidated, and we are starting to present elements of I would say introvert sort of parts of the city that were perceived as unsafe, and we are taking care of that through Science, which is redeveloping a significant part of the city. So I would say that looking at the standards of other cities, Nicosia is doing very well in terms of social innovation.
Thank you, dear Mayor. Indeed, and I will take your last sentence about Nicosia being introvert the previous years, about its business potentials and also business successes that we are not communicated appropriately to demonstrate this dynamic that is currently being revealed with your presence in the municipality, but also with the connection of all other municipalities that form the larger municipality of Nicosia. And this is very important. That's why I would like to ask Dr. Nicolaou, coming from the academia and from a position that your role is to connect people in a way, how do you see this evolution of local communities in social innovation and entrepreneurship, and how do they connect with academia and international networks, and all this, how do they end up in Cyprus empowering our local ecosystem?
Thank you for the question. First of all, I would like to thank you for inviting me and my co-fellow panelists here, and it's my honor to be in front of you as well. I would like to use an example of something that we do together with the Nicosia municipality, with the university now. They have actually asked us, and we help them with the money from international networks such as the European Union, to help people that are in the city, especially artists, to build a business, to start up a business. We also have a migrant in the group, and she has also connected with industry. So the fact that we can bring this quadruple helix into the workings of our community, like bringing in academia to bring the academic methods, the research and everything, bringing the community, the municipality with the needs, the pressing needs and the urgency, getting the people to talk to us, and then the industry to help the machines if we need the raw materials and everything that is necessary. Then you get all the stakeholders that are important to bring out results that would benefit not only the city, but Cyprus in general. Now, universities, not only my university, of course, they have a big challenge here. We need to be able to find a way to collaborate with each other. Cyprus is so small that it's a pity that we all need to buy our own machines here and there, and maybe it would be a good idea, for instance, in the engineering school, there are expensive stuff, in the medical school there are expensive stuff, and we could really share all of this and also share our knowledge. share the network we've got. So the first thing we need to realize is that we shouldn't be competitors with, anywhere in the community, everybody. We're such a small island. The big world is out there, and we have a lot to gain by collaborating rather than competing.
Thank you, Diana. It's very important the point you are making about making universities open for everybody, especially coming to a more practical issue like the equipment that is not accessible to the public and is probably sitting in a lab of a university for a long time without being used.
And it could be any university, private university, public university. It doesn't matter. We should all be able to collaborate with each other. And
I think that element of collaboration should be as open and promoted in this context. And I would like to ask Professor Efstathiou, from his position as a rector of a traditional university of Cyprus, all over these years, what the universities have been doing to bridge, let's say, the local innovation with global collaboration, and how did this address social challenges in Cyprus, but also globally?
Hello, everyone. I hope this works.
If not.
Okay. I would also like to thank very much the organizers for the invitation to participate in this STEAM panel. I actually have, my background is in science and engineering, but I hope I can make some meaningful comments here, drawing from my experience as rector of the European University of Cyprus for the last 3 years, and also vice rector of research and external affairs in the previous 7 years. I would like to first say that here in Cyprus we had a very significant transformation in the last 2 or 3 decades. Because we set up, my colleague here said about universities, we have set up here in Cyprus 13 universities and a number of other higher education institutions. We also set up centers of excellence, as we heard from the mayor, one in Nicosia. This has been a very significant transformation because a number of scientists, probably of the order of 2,000 scientists, are employed now in these higher education institutions and research centers. And I think the main, this creates the potential for all of these people to act as agents, to bring about this bridging of the gap between the local innovation ecosystem and the global scene. And there are a number of instruments provided by the local authorities, but also the European Commission, for bringing about this bridging of the two communities. And we can discuss this in more detail if you like, but mainly through Erasmus programs, for our participation in Horizon Europe, and so on. And I think this creates the potential for our community to, there are a number of different activities going on at our universities, but the opportunity to collaborate with scientists in Europe and around the world can bring about this goal, which will be to the benefit of our community very much.
Thank you, Professor, and I think it's a good opportunity to ask a live agent of connection, like Professor Antonacopoulou, being in different regions and now placed in the American University of Beirut, a remarkable course in your career, Professor. Maybe through your experience across different regions, you can share with us some examples, some methods, processes that we can actually adopt in our region, but also in our island.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here this afternoon. I'm Greek Cypriot, but I have lived for the biggest part of my adult life abroad, so I'm repatriating after 35 years. So I'm really relieved that we're doing this panel in English, I must admit, ashamedly. I'm also very grateful to sit alongside my established colleagues, but I really want to say thank you for framing this, a conversation about learning together more. And I think that is the essence of collaboration, and that is the essence of connectivity. In my own scholarly work, I have founded and have been directing for over 20 years the Gnosis Initiative, which I had taken from Warwick Business School, Manchester, Liverpool, to Ivey Business School in Canada, and now to the American University of Beirut Mediterranean in Paphos. And this has been a hub for connecting academics across disciplines, practitioners and policymakers. And the essence is the co-creation of knowledge for impact. So this idea of partnering for impact is very important because it's underpinned by placing the common good as the driving force. What does that mean? It means that we're not just pursuing research for its own sake. We're not producers of knowledge someone else has to consume, but instead we are joining forces literally and fostering the kind of ideas that address grand challenges that we're facing. So some of the collaborative projects I initiated or have participated or I'm actively involved currently involve us working with colleagues at Harvard, Oxford, and the UN. We produced a policy report to complement the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, given that we seem to be making little progress in addressing them. And we have articulated a report promoting the global flourishing goals because we anticipate the World Economic Forum will be soon announcing the 5th Industrial Revolution is focusing very much on that. So what is collaboration and co-creation achieving in mobilizing the future we want to be part of is precisely that, future making.
Excellent. Thank you, Professor. And indeed, collaboration, learning together, creating together, and not just being consumers of what is happening around us, but be co-creators of knowledge. I also believe is the essence of progress. And maybe this is one of the critical components that Demetris, the CEO of CSI, could share with us in the effort of the organization to internationalize and scale up. CSI, a business located within the walls of Nicosia, trying to go outside the walls. We love the walls of Nicosia, the physical essence, but metaphorically we want to break these walls and evolve internationally. And maybe Demetris can share with us these efforts of taking CSI beyond Cyprus.
Thank you, Sotiris. I think, listening to all the great panelists here, we all agree that synergies, collaboration, co-creation, working together, learning together, they are all good concepts. And in a lot of cases, they are done very well. I think what we need to work on is finding a way to bring all this together. Right now, the way we see it is that there is a lot of actions going on and a lot of initiatives. However, these initiatives don't connect. And I will give an analogy. Let's say we are a bunch of manufacturing facilities, and one makes the best tires, the other one makes the best engines, the other one makes the best, doors for the car or what have you. But those manufacturing facilities don't talk to each other. You're never going to have a good car. You're never going to have a functioning car. You're going to be ineffective, and you're going to be insufficient in terms of getting to the outcome that we all want to get to create communities where people feel comfortable, feel loved, and feel that they have the right and the capacity and the opportunities to be productive within the community. So what do we do with CSI? We do the same thing that I described. We alone, trying to collaborate with as many people as we can, but we do try to extend exactly what I described. How do we work together with other organizations to, first of all, achieve progress because I think at the end of the day, progression of where we are and where we are going is what is important. We're not going to change everything at once. So we do have international collaborations, for example, with universities in Asia, where we have our colleague here, Loizos, that travel to Asia to share our knowledge and experiences on the entrepreneurship, creativity and innovation side. And that was very successful. And to my surprise, there were like around 50 professors from local universities. They were very enthusiastic in terms of receiving our knowledge coming from the west side of the planet. And through that, by exchanging ideas in terms of running businesses, how to take care of our communities, it kind of raised the excitement on both sides of the ocean. We also have initiatives in the United States with a couple of universities there, where we do something called service learning. It's kind of like the old apprenticeship concept. We bring students to Cyprus, we place them in local communities where the students can practice their craft and get credit for it, and the local communities benefit from it by receiving that knowledge. It's a project called Young Cities, and I think Sofia is there, who is managing that. And a lot of different other initiatives, like with the University, American University of Beirut in Paphos, and European universities, and municipalities, University of Cyprus, and other local knowledge hubs. We do a lot of actions, events, activities where we try to bring people together exactly so we can promote this notion of global collaboration and synergy. Unfortunately, and I will say that not to sound negative, in Cyprus we have a culture that is a little bit skeptical about collaborating. And we can see that even at places like what Daina described at the universities, for example. It's a conversation that has been going on for many, many years about having all these resources that were paid for by the taxpayers, where if they were to share, smaller companies that need to use facilities that have technology and machines and all that, they would be able to easier show progression and put products and services perhaps in the market in a more financially viable way. So yes, we need to work on a lot of our emotional baggage, I would say, as a community. We need to embrace people. And I will close with not my quote, but I think when Barack Obama went to Kenya and he realized that there was a difference between how they treated men from women in terms of the workplace, he actually said a country that doesn't treat all its inhabitants the same way, giving them the same opportunities to produce, is a stupid country, because you basically subtract half of the population in that particular case out of the productivity cycle. So we need to work on that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Demetris. I mean, it's very important, of course, to be inclusive, to everybody, to utilize the resources for progress and sustainability in our island. And this is why I would like to ask Dr. Nicolaou, I mean, how academic leaders secure this inclusivity in innovation-led initiatives, how they open them up, and they don't just remain global trends that they are flooding around.
It has to be a bottom-up approach, whereby we have participatory research. This is where you bring all the stakeholders together under one roof, or in this case, maybe a virtual under one roof. You get to collaborate with people from abroad that have benchmarks and best practices that they can help us, and we can also pave our way through the specificities of the Cypriot ecosystem. But the most important thing is to come like bottom up, like get the people who are mostly involved and mostly affected by what is happening around them, be it abused women or men, migrants, people who are not educated up to the level that they can actually join the working force. So all of these people that actually feel the pain and the brunt of the challenges into communities such as the Nicosia municipality that organizes different activities to bring this together, but also the universities. We do a lot of work, we do a lot of research. It could actually be like applied research, and this research needs to be translated, transformed into some kind of, let's say, organizational business activity that can, at the end of the day, benefit Cyprus through exports or even through exporting the knowledge coming from working with communities that have been, let's say, marginalized for whatever reason.
Very, very important points, Dr. Nicolaou, and having the production of this knowledge and co-creation and inclusivity in the effort of internationalization, I would like to ask Professor Efstathiou how the European funding supported this process in internationalizing the European university, but all universities of Cyprus, and how this has been instrumental to have the level of tertiary education we have now in Cyprus, which I consider to be at a good level.
As I mentioned, we have a number of instruments to achieve our goals here. First of all, Erasmus, of course, it involves projects, but it's also a lot about mobility. A lot of people do not realize that Erasmus not only help to travel within Europe, but also beyond Europe. There's an annual call every year by the national agency here in Cyprus about this. Then with Horizon Europe, Cyprus benefited very much from Horizon Europe. It's one of the best performers in Horizon Europe, and with funding from Horizon Europe, we set up all of these 7, I think, in total, centers of excellence, including science. We heard from the mayor. It's important, of course, for these centers to maintain their sustainability. It's a major issue we need to address here in Cyprus. Another important area where European funding is going to help very much Cyprus is through the European Universities Alliances. Cyprus, the European University Alliances is something that was introduced a few years ago, and I think it was an idea of President Macron, and there are about 60 such alliances now, about 9 universities each. So we have a total of about 500 universities in Europe participating in them. 7 of these alliances involve a university based in Cyprus. The 3 public universities and 4 the private universities. And this creates more opportunities for more focused collaboration with the universities in the network.
I will keep the collaboration work, Professor Efstathiou, to go to Mayor Prountzos. You came from the business world to the local authority context, the public service, if I'm allowed to say context. I mean, what are the challenges you are facing in collaborating with academia, with the private sector? I think it's a discussion, it's endless in Cyprus about the relationship between the public and the private sector. I don't want to characterize it in a more personal way, but we all realize that it's a relation of tension, a relation of mistrust. I don't know how you face that and how you suggest to overcome it to keep progressing locally and internationally.
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. I have been fortunate enough to have experience in not only the private sector, but also I've served as a member, vice chairman, and chairman of the board of the Open University of Cyprus, which is one of the 3 public universities. So through that decade, I was blessed to meet the academics. It was not always a pleasant experience, but it was definitely a valuable experience because very charismatic people exist in our institutions and academic institutions. We should be very proud of that. So I'm going to be, it's nice to speak about collaboration, but I'm going to be a bit more cynical because I've got the private sector talking as well. First of all, we have to be institutional in Cyprus. The three universities are not state universities. They are public universities. And there's a big difference of philosophy between a state university and a public university. A public university is an investment of the taxpayer. And this needs to be understood. I mean, whatever investment we've made, and we've made up until now more than 2 billion euros of investment into the public universities. That's a humongous amount. Just the campus of the University of Cyprus alone has cost us 1 billion euros. Yeah? We have to be very mindful that these amounts are amounts of the taxpayer that have been spent for a particular purpose. And therefore, the nature of public universities needs to have the openness and the embracing that comes about with the fact that the taxpayers have not invested in the universities themselves, but have invested in the concept of having that openness and that embracing and that collaboration across the sector. On the other hand, we see that private universities were the first source of institutional investors to invest in Cyprus. Correct? Both the University of Nicosia and the European University, and now the AUB, are institutions that have institutional investors behind them. And not just any institutional investors, we are talking about some of the world's largest funds specializing in tertiary education. So, if you look at that big picture, it tells you, number one, that we should demand the openness of the infrastructure of public universities to everyone, including the private universities. Number two, that tertiary education in Cyprus is a serious business, and this is depicted by the fact, and because of the profile of the investors that have invested in this. This creates a responsibility for the private universities to find the appropriate balance between research, standard, and contribution to the society. And this is a criticism that I have for private universities, that I do not see the academics of private universities making interventions in the public sphere that will define the debate as we would have expected them to do so. And it's a constructive criticism, not because I don't think that there are people that can make this sort of intervention, which is critical for social innovation. If the academics don't open the, pave the way for this dialogue, who will do it? Yeah? But we need also the management of these universities, which is unfortunately dependent on decisions made by the central government on certain aspects, and hence they are mindful of making certain interventions. They need to make a choice. Universities need to make that choice. Are we here to accommodate the stress of being dependent on the central government, or are we here to rise up to the central government and to show that we are generating more than 1 billion euros contribution to the GDP, and hence it's the government that should be begging us and not the other way around? We need to make that conscious decision. You cannot have everything in life, And in terms of the municipality saw this gap. I saw this gap. That's why I ran for the elections, because I think that there's huge potential in Nicosia. It's got 30,000 students. It's got 4 exceptional universities. It's got all this investment. It's got great academics. We need to bring that closer to the private sector. And the private sector and the public sector have not utilized our universities as much as they could have. So when I saw that nobody makes the first step, I said, okay, the municipality should do it. And that's why yesterday basically, I sent out the letters for the first time to have the business council of the mayor, which will bring together all the stakeholders, the Chamber of Commerce, the lawyers, the accountants, the academia, the private schools, the research centers, the entire business community, in order to create that synergetic relationship. And there's a great term, it's called co-petition. It's, I think, unrealistic to expect that we will not compete. Of course we'll compete. You should compete. It's part of life. But at the end of the day, there's a concept of competition. Like, you can compete in certain things, but if the Greek universities, for instance, open up private universities, are we going to be fighting over 12 slices of pizza? We need to make the pizza larger, so that there's food for everyone. Otherwise, it's going to be a critical outcome for the entire sector, and we don't want that. Yeah. So the city needs to be proactive in that.
Thank you, Mayor. It's very important to hear these initiatives from you. I guess we can use this for news, these announcements, which are very important also for Nicosia to attract knowledge, investments, and facilitate progress. Something that CSI is trying to do over the past years, trying to balance between the local relevance of its work and the global outreach. Dimitri, what strategies have been proven successful for CSI in this connection of local with the global, but also in the process of working with municipalities, academia, but also the general public?
I'm going to say that I'm happy to see that our mayor is more business than politician. That's good. That's very good. I love you. We are friends.
Don't open the discussion.
Yeah, it's about love. Everything is about love. I will make a suggestion, and then I'm going to talk about CSI. Two suggestions, and I made that yesterday, I think, on another panel. We need something like, I don't know the English terminology, like the old Γραφείο Προγραμματισμού. Planning Bureau. Yes, thank you. That will change and progress and morph into a group that can manage the bringing together of all these resources, but most importantly, the implementation. Because I was young when they were like at their top. They did a great job in terms of doing a lot of things that kind of help Cyprus developed at that time infrastructure, the road system, healthcare, and all that stuff. So that's one suggestion. The second suggestion, to make, and I said this to a previous panel as well, to make academics work together, you have to motivate them and you have to give them incentives. And we have a model that works in the United States. In the US, professors get evaluated and getting paid on three things: teaching, great research, and collaboration with the industry, consulting. If a professor in the US doesn't do these three things, it's not going to go anywhere. Actually, in the biggest universities, they push them out. Here, we basically, with our legislations, we disallow them from doing that. We restrict them from doing that. For like 10, 12 years, we worked, and I was part of it, on this initiative of taking the research and making startups. And it was a hell to have that conversation, to actually do it. I mean, there is something that is done right now, but marginally just so they can, quote unquote, shut up and don't talk about it anymore. So there is a way to do this stuff. We need somebody to take the initiative, like what our mayor is doing in Nicosia, from what I understand, with the Business Council, but do it at the national level. Now, what do we do to expand? What kind of strategies? One strategy is to put Sotiris on a plane and have him travel all over Europe, and that's a true story. Go and talk to people. Go and talk to people, understand what's going on, understand how they work, what kind of resources are out there, what kind of collaborations are out there, and it's a treacherous process. It takes a lot of time and a lot of effort, but at some point you find the spots where where you can land and find these great collaborations. One of those is a project in SA where CSI is basically the manager of social innovation platform of the European Commission for the whole of Europe. Like that project, there is a lot of examples. We are about globalization with a local touch, and I will explain what I mean. You cannot just take what's going on around the world and expect to bring it to Cyprus and expect it to work. You have to localize it. You have to consider the local culture. You have to consider the local education system. You have to consider a lot of different things. And I remember when a few years ago, 10, maybe 12 years ago, everybody went crazy about signing a memorandum of understanding with Microsoft, and that Microsoft was going to be in Cyprus. And my first reaction was, who are they going to hire? Where are they going to find 10,000 people to hire? So we have to be logical, we have to be localized with the global context, and we have to be brave to take a step outside this small island and cross the pond and go to Europe a little bit more and go to the United States, to Asia, Middle East, Africa, big development opportunities in Africa, and give the opportunity to our people to bring together all these resources and collaborations and synergies into a productivity and production mode, as opposed to just talking too much about it and not doing much. So we need to implement, we need to monitor, we need to modify, and we need to keep moving forward.
Thank you, Dimitri. And as you always say, contextualized thinking.
We have shirts that say that.
To contextualize what we receive from around us, Professor Antonacopoulou, I mean, this question it's been around forever, but I mean, does profit-making business balance with social impact and social contribution?
Absolutely, but I have to start by connecting what we've heard so far. And I will start by saying I love you both, because you do recognize how vital it is to energize those connections, but do so on the basis of quality relationships. So that when we are co-creating knowledge for impact, which was the one thing I haven't heard any of you talk about, we actually transcend concepts like co-opetition or localization, and we actually start talking about emplacement. Emplacement and impact is where the debate is heading, because it's really inviting us to take a stance and stand up for what we stand for in the global space, so that we can position Cyprus as a knowledge hub that can deliver the promises that the island has to give. And that promise is being delivered by businesses who have positioned themselves precisely in this way. I had the pleasure of, in the Gnosis initiative, very much work actively in what I'm just talking about. But two immediate examples I can give you. A big company, manufacturing company in the States, Barry Wellmiller, is a celebrated case study also at Harvard Business School. They are continuing to enjoy significant profits, but at the same time, they have taken a very clear stance about their position towards the environment, towards issues of sustainability, but more importantly, and I purposefully use the word love, They explicitly say they care and love their workforce enough to design the kind of infrastructures so that the workplace is a place of flourishing. Similarly, Jurovac, a small firm, continues to thrive. In fact, it changes the conversation when it comes to family firms. It has appointed a non-family firm person as a successor to lead the company to its next phase. Jurovac, as its name suggests, it's a durable commercial vacuum cleaner. You're thinking, what size of a market are we talking about? But in Canada and internationally, it's leading the way because it lives by its promise to honor the environment and to ensure that its products are durable, and so that it doesn't counter to the competition, which usually banks on replacing parts at a certain period of time that they are designed to collapse. It works against that concept. So it is thriving precisely because it's doing things differently, and therefore it's making a difference in the market. And that's what I've invited us to do so as well.
Thank you for the examples. I mean, it's amazing to see these multinational companies act in this way and pave the way for the rest of us. And allow me to say, it's also, I think it's part of their evolution. It's part of their DNA. It's part of their development. I mean, I don't think it's something that came up the last 5 years, but it's how they were built over the years to be so powerful in the market is because they have this vision, a shared vision that also CSI has about improving the quality of life in the communities around them. So
vision is one thing. Being able to take a stance is another. Paul Polman, who was leading Unilever, had to stand before its shareholders and be ready to be fired for his stance towards stakeholders. So it's not just in the DNA. It is building that character and conscience that gives you the strength beyond your competence to make that difference.
Of course, actions speak. So, and Professor Efstathiou, if actions speak, I mean, how the European University of Cyprus outreach the community through the research, through the innovation that produces, what is the relationship between universities and the wider community in Cyprus, and how do you evaluate, how do you assess that relationship between the citizens and the universities?
I believe this is central. Have a good outreach program to whatever you do to be related, linked to the community, will be essential. There's no way research which is not relevant communicated effectively, maybe because at the end of the day we want to benefit the community. Our professors mentioned about our professors, when they are evaluated for their research, teaching, and also their service to the community. We have a number of centers of excellence, carry out their extensive programs. Society that deals with social issues, societies which risk climate change. I would like to take the challenge by the mayor, Daina, to criticize a little bit, if I may. If we are going to be successful in doing things, I don't know if I'm doing this. It's probably better now. We said that we have a large community of academics, scientists here on this island, large number of universities. In order to sustain all of these activities, we need more funding, unfortunately. And unfortunately, Cyprus is one of the bottom performers in research funding. And I think it's absolutely essential to increase the level of funding available to this community. I think Cyprus spends about 0.8% of the GDP. I'm actually Vice President of Research and Innovation Foundation, so I'm criticizing myself in this way, but it gets the funding it gets from the government. I think there are indications that the government is sympathetic to an increase of research funding. It's absolutely fundamental.
Professor Efstathiou, it's very good that you have a self-awareness not about you, but about the role of the institutions.
I'm doing all I can to
I know you
promote
do.
this idea. We're promoting this idea to the Minister of Education, who has not much to do with research funding. Unfortunately, we have another ministry, a deputy ministry, but also with the deputy minister and the government, whenever we have the chance, we promote this idea.
Indeed, it's unfortunate that the investment from the state to research is very low. On the other hand, the private entities of Cyprus, like European University, but also CSI and other research centers from the private sector, are currently leading in percentage the access in EU funding. From all Europe, the Cyprus institutions are leading the access to EU funding. I'm not saying that to cover the state challenges and gaps, but I'm just saying that we find other paths without neglecting the responsibility of the state to invest in research. Dear Mayor, you mentioned before that you were in the Cities Forum and you got connected there with other cities. I mean, we see global cities to become more interconnected with them, between them, through technology, collaboration, some common policies about their citizens. Is Nicosia currently taking any steps to connect with other cities globally that we can transfer our examples and our knowledge, or we can receive knowledge from other cities? Knowing your pre-election statements about developing Nicosia as a business center, with emphasis on that, on connecting with other mega cities, if I may say, that will help us and we may help them to evolve in this entrepreneurial ecosystem process.
First of all, allow me to make 2 comments on what was heard. Professor Antonacopoulou, I think it's a great point actually about taking a stance. And one of the good things of having a 15-year-old daughter is that you learn all about Taylor Swift. So Taylor Swift is, we may be laughing, but it's one of the world's largest brand names at the moment. Yeah. And it was shocking to see the pressure that she had from her publicists not to take a stance on some of the major issues in the US, which, as you know, is probably the most polarized country in terms of politics and in terms of what we call politics of identity. Yeah? And she didn't. I mean, she took a stance on some of the material issues, and she got slaughtered by what is currently almost a 50% view. So previously, companies, and you mentioned Unilever has a positive example and also a very negative example. It has not laid off its CIS, its Russia business. Yeah? So it's like going into the barn with the chickens, yeah? And you're going to be eaten up, as we say in the Cypriot metaphor. But you have to do it. We have to do it. And the municipality of Nicosia, for instance, is a co-organizer of the Cyprus Pride. Yeah? We could have taken a more neutral sort of path and respect the fact that we've got a rising part of the population that is more conservative towards LGBTQI+ rights. We didn't. And my predecessor, Mr. Yorkagis, is to be commented on that. And so are major state businesses like CETA, which also supported the cause. We need to take a stance. If you're quiet, you're going to be eaten up by the chickens, and you're not going to be you won't have the credit of having expressed your view on such critical issues. So that's number 1. Number 2, about the funding. Again, I'm going to be provocative. Say that we're spending 0.8%. The key question is, what is the impact of that investment in terms of output, both direct and indirect? It's not satisfactory. And science, which I am the chairman I'm the chairman of science now. We spend millions and millions of euros on science. I think it's a great institution. Yeah, I think it's doing a great job, but definitely could have done better with all that investment that has gone in. Yeah. So instead of beating ourselves, we have to acknowledge the good things, and as Demetris said, we need to progress one step at a time or multiple steps at a time. Now, in terms of your question, I don't think that, in terms of city relationships, we've got all sorts of sister relationship, MOUs, blah, 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 and the universities have got all sorts. Rarely these MOUs are being materialized and are being, implemented because there is no owner of the process and there is no concrete action plan to move things forward. So you have to make baby steps. Yeah. In terms of the bigger cities, I went to the mayor of Geneva. They've got a rotating mayorship system there. So 5 people get elected together, and there's one every year. They've got a different person being the mayor. The current mayor is a lady of Greek origin, Miss Kitsos, who was born and raised in Switzerland. And I spoke with her, not about grand, ideas, but about simple things like cleanliness, like social cohesion, how you activate the neighborhood, for instance. Yeah. So they know, they're giving us know-how. On the other hand, when they saw the digital twin that science has created for Nicosia, they were shocked. We are one of less than 10 cities in Europe that have a proper digital twin in place. Yeah? But the question is, what do you do with this digital twin? And then I met Lord Foster of Foster & Partners, probably one of the world's 5 most prominent architects. Yeah? And the guy hears that Nicosia has a digital twin. And he was shocked. And now science is in discussions with Foster & Partners to utilize the capabilities of the digital twin of Nicosia. So through that experience, you realize that A is all about networking, B is all about what you do with the networking, otherwise it's just coffee and drinks. We love that, but it's not enough. And number 3 is one little step at a time. Yeah?
And that's a very good remark, dear Mayor, because networking, it's in the part of the major activities of CSI. And I hope I don't just stay in the coffee and drinks, and I move with actions, Dimitri. But we live in times of change, Professor Antonacopoulou, and how do you see companies cope with that, and what are the major elements or tools that an entity has to develop or acquire to adapt to change?
We have to really transform our way of thinking. We live in a world, and I didn't have to spend 10 years working as an ethnographer with the military, the Royal Norwegian Air Force, to tell you that in the business world, at least outside Cyprus, that I've been spending more time in, people talk about, people talk about VUCA. VUCA stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity. We have to accept that change is the norm, stability is the exception. So the first tool is to transform and reframe the way in which we understand the world we are participating in, co-creating. So we are the system. Don't blame the system, we are the system. So if we want something different and therefore change, we need to understand what VUCA also invites. So if we have volatility, we need vision. Companies that mobilize in creating the future they want to be part of have vision. They also have, in uncertainty, understanding that they will not get all the parameters right. And in recognizing that they're dealing with complexity, they don't just complicate it more by simplifying it. They embrace it with clarity because they create their future on the basis not of their desires, but their preferences. And language I love immensely because a desire is an ambition. A preference is a choice. We're going back to emplacement. And finally, if we're talking about ambiguity, we must stop talking about adaptability. It's a word I hate. Because adaptability, as I tell my students, it's a boiled frog syndrome. Do not try this experiment at home. If you put a frog in a pan with cold water and you put it on the stove and you increase the heat slowly, the frog will boil to death. So that's adaptability. So if you have ambiguity, you need agility. But in order to respond to agility, you need to develop that leadership capacity that is founded on an awakening. In other words, you have that capacity to project the possibilities that you can help realize in the future. The future is today. It's becoming tomorrow because the actions that drive it realize its possibility.
Great. Thank you, Professor Antonacopoulou. I mean, it's very important to realize that we are part of change. We can drive change, but we also can survive through change, and it's very important. Demetris, I mean, over the many years of your experience working in the business sector, in the community sector, and you talk a lot about this in the office. How do you measure success? How do you measure impact? What is those factors that make you feel that, okay, this was successful, this was a failure?
Impact is where you do things that change people's lives. There's nothing else we do. Anything that we do, if it doesn't have that as a cornerstone of measurement, it doesn't make a sense. Okay, so you have to find ways to measure, and we are failing big time in terms of measuring. We can look at the European Union, for example. We can look at Cyprus. Invested, I mean, the mayor said, gave a lot of examples of investing in universities, investing in a lot of different things, but we never measure what is the impact so we can learn from it. It's important to learn from something and then change it so you can move forward. So we need to learn to measure. We need to be, and I think it's something that was mentioned, I'm just putting a word to it, we need to be brave to make decisions and make the hard decisions. We need to take ownership, and we also need to move ourselves a little bit from our comfort zone. We are too comfortable. We are way too comfortable. And I will take the words of the CEO of NVIDIA. In an interview, he was asked, what is your greatest advice for somebody who wants to succeed? And he said, I wish them suffering. Because suffering builds character and it builds resiliency. Comfort is just that. So yeah, we need to measure, be resilient, take chances, stand up, all those great things. But at the end of the day, we need to be doers. We need to, what we say, roll up our sleeves and get things done. I'm not going to use the other word. We need to do that.
Thank you, Demetris. I sometimes suffer next to you, but I get better and better. And
I'm retiring soon. So.
I hope not. I want to continue suffering. Dear Diana, I mean, you work a lot with students. How do you see the future that the university is offering to them? I mean, how connected is the university with the realities around us? I mean, it's a common discussion that education doesn't offer real skills and knowledge to the students to go out there in the market and the society and progress. I mean, from your experience, where do we stand now? What do you see coming?
Okay. So I have to talk from my experience. Well, we give a lot more emphasis on experiential learning now and project-based learning. Therefore, we try to get the students into the community so that we use design thinking methodology to empathize with the needs of the community or, as I said before, marginalized groups in one way or another, and implement the knowledge that we give them, like coming from theory and also from best practices abroad, to find solutions. As a matter of fact, we do have teams who have competed not only on a Cypriot, pan-Cyprian competition on entrepreneurship and innovation, but also on a pan-European basis. And they do get awards. We've managed to get, I mean, in the last 5 years, almost every year we have an award that is centered around social innovation in Europe, competing with universities abroad that have a lot more money than we do. And of course, we have to depend on political and decisions to be able to make our own decisions later on and our own choices. But indeed, we have to be proud of the young people, and not only the young people. I mean, we have students of all sorts of ages and backgrounds. And in the kind of difficulties that they face, they are like rising strong and being able to stand there and make us proud. So one thing that I would like, because I think that is the last question that you will be giving me, so this is the last time I have the microphone, is that...
You can keep the microphone, it's okay.
Thank you. I know I have this proverb in my head now that if you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go together. And that's what I would like to leave as my ending, sentence.
Thank you. It's very, very important. I hope we all go together far. I mean, all of us working from our different capacities and affiliations, and definitely, even after this event here, we will be able to connect, network, find synergies, and progress. It was indeed the last question, so we will open the floor for any... Yes.
Some branding here. I'm going to have my friend Charalambos here do the IPR. We talked before about social innovation, social enterprise, social entrepreneurship, and we mentioned that in Brussels. Social innovation, it's business with a soul. I mean, and that, without too much context, that's what it is. If we manage to do that, then I think we cover all the other stuff. Okay? Do it pro bono, okay?
Thank you. Very, very important remark. Any questions, comments from the audience? We will continue this discussion later. Any remarks from the panelists? Great. Thank you very, very much for this discussion. Amazing. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.